Alrighty, so first of all, if you do hear a bit of background noises, that is actually the fan as it's still relatively hot here in the Bay Area for the second day in a row. But nevertheless, the two games that happened in the middle of the week have just finished, and let's jump straight into it by first talk about NYCFC versus Inter Miami. Now, what's kind of interesting about this is that this game was a 1-0 game for a large part, and this was a game where NYCFC actually looked good, at least in the first 30 minutes. They had their moments in terms of chances, but how many times we've said this before? When you face against Inter Miami, you don't punish them with the chances that you're given. Yeah, it's going to come back to haunt you in a big way, and boy, did it haunt NYCFC in a big way, and Miami pretty much just kind of pulled away in the second half as well. Now, in the first half, Silvetti with the game's first shot, but he missed one on the volley. There was a shout for a handball for Miami, not given. Miami definitely dictate the game early and was looking for the opening goal. But in the fifth minute, Markel has the first shot for NYCFC, but he puts it just wide from long range. And then Falcon would heads it right to freeze from the corner. Messi would then had a shot that was deflected and goes wide. The shots were 4-2 for Miami 13 minutes in. So there were definitely some chances early in this one. In fact, both of these games that we saw, there was no feeling out period. Usually, from what we saw on the weekend, where maybe there's like a little feeling out period, maybe not much happened before the game does get going. Neither of these game was kind of like that. It was kind of an entertaining start to both of these games as well. Ustari then denied Martins from the corner, and then Markel clipped the post as he was in on goal here in the 29th minute. And yeah, that is one that Markel would want to have back. I mean, he set himself up in a good position there to pretty much give NYCFC a 1-0 lead. And again, these wasteful chances for NYCFC, the one that Miami, we know that they give teams chances. If you don't bury it, it's going to come back to haunt them in a big way because after Freeze denied Messi on the free kick in the 39th minute, in the 42nd minute, Miami takes the lead. It's Rodriguez. He scored from Messi and Busquets to make it 1-0 in favor of Miami. Just a vintage Miami attack, a goal that is pretty much set up in Barcelona, except for the fact that Balthasar Rodriguez doesn't play for Barcelona. But you get what I mean in terms of the two assist player that used to play for Barcelona. But nevertheless, it was a 1-0 lead for Miami. That would be the scoreline heading into the second half. In the second half, Suarez would hit it right to freeze. Miami was definitely on the front foot again. They were looking to try to get that second goal. Eventually NYCFC did get themselves into this game in the second half, but the final third quality was not there. They weren't really creating too many chances in the final third. It's also important to note that Alonso Martinez didn't start this game yet. Actually had to come off the bench. They mentioned he was dealing with a bit of a knock of his abductor. He did coming into the second half and he didn't really make too much impact. That injury maybe was kind of bothering him throughout this game. But the shots were 7-5 for Miami 60 minutes in. There was a shout for a penalty from the NYCFC fans not given, but then the 75th minute, the goal himself score again. So he scored here from Busquets to make it 2-0 in favor of Miami. Pereira did look to answer, but he heads it wide in the 77th minute, and then O'Toole would put a volley right to Ustari in the 80th minute. It's just that kind of a night for NYCFC, not capitalizing in terms of the chances, even though I wrote NYCFC was pressing this set up for a grandstand finish. You just kind of had a sense that Miami probably is going to hold on to this. They usually don't blow leads to Miami, that is, and they got a penalty in the 82nd minute as Hack brought down DePaul in the box. And again, this is another game where Messi decided to kind of be a little unselfish here and not take the penalty. I'm kind of surprised that he's not haven't been taking the penalty spot. I wonder did that miss that he has did that really kind of affect him that much? The fact that he's not gonna take the penalty from the spot anymore. But nevertheless, Suarez was the one that steps up to take the penalty, and he buries this one to make it 3-0 in favor of Inter Miami. Alande did look for the fourth and probably should have done so as he was in on goal, but he missed high there. But in the 86th minute, the goal himself would make it 4-0 as Messi would score from away again to make it 4-0 in favor of Inter Miami. Almost was 5-0 as Messi himself looked to try to go for the hat trick, and he tried to do it in spectacular fashion and try to chip Freeze from the halfway line. He saw Freeze kind of come off his lines a little bit too much, trying to chip him there. Didn't quite have the enough of the height there because it goes right to Freeze there. Before Alonso Martinez was in on goal there, but he struck the post in the third minute of stoppage time, and that was really the only chance that Martinez has had in this one, and one that, yeah, you would assume that he probably should have been been bearing those, but also kind of one that just kind of sums up the night for NYCFC. Again, they had their moments in this one against Inter Miami, not able to take advantage of it. And when you do that, yeah, Inter Miami is going to win it because we know how clinical they are. And indeed, that is the case with Miami getting the 4-0 win. The shots in this one, 12 shots for the 9 that NYCFC had, 2 shots on goal for the 8 that Miami has. Both teams had 3 shots off target, 2 shots that was blocked for the 1 that Miami has, and possession-wise, 51% possession compared to 49% possession that Inter Miami has in this game. And with this win, Miami officially clinched their playoff position, but obviously they're looking for more. They're definitely looking to try to win the supporter shield again, and I believe they're actually in control of their own destiny when it comes to the supporter shield. I know they're still a little further behind and have to pass a couple of teams in the supporter shield standings, but with the way that they still have a couple of games in hand over pretty much everybody up them, they can continue to win and the other team continue to lose and draw points. They can definitely get themselves in the top of the supporter shield and win the supporter shield for the second consecutive year. Though again, I know if you as any Inter Miami fans, and especially this Inter Miami team, I don't think they really care too much about the supporter shield because as I said, the benchmark of this team and really what determine whether this is a successful or a failure of season for Miami is that they got to win MLS Cup. And I think the pressure is now even higher with the way that you look at the this season with some of the tournament that they've been playing, losing in the CONCACAF Champions Cup semifinal against Vancouver, and then losing in the Leeds Cup final against Seattle. I think now the pressure is even higher for them to win MLS Cup because if they don't walk away with anything out of this one, I mean, to just walk away with the supporter shield, that is not going to be enough, especially with the caliber that this team is. So yeah, the pressure is definitely going to be on this team when they do make it to the playoff. Of all the teams that have the most pressure of winning MLS Cup this year, Miami is probably right up there in terms of the one that has the most pressure. Maybe not even close compared to the other team right now that has the pressure of winning MLS Cup this year. Now, moving on in terms of the next match. So the reason why I say Miami is now in control of their own destiny, they weren't actually in control of their own destiny in terms of winning the supporter shield. Believe it or not, the Vancouver Whitecaps were in control of their own destiny coming into tonight, and that is not the case anymore. As in this game, it was a 1-1 draw that they had. They dropped points in this one against the Portland Timbers, but in many ways, this was a very frustrating game for the Portland Timbers because this was a game that in the first half they were by far the better team. In fact, I would say this was kind of a game of two halves where both of these teams kind of were the better side in each of the half. But for the Portland Timbers, the same case I said about NYCFC, they were being wasteful in front of goal, and they got the one goal to show for. And yeah, when you face against Vancouver, a 1 goal lead is always not going to be enough, especially you hit late in the game. Now, in the first half, Valde would have a shot that was deflected and goals wide, as that was the game's first shot. Valde was everywhere in this one. I mean, Vancouver had no answer for the most part dealing with him. Takaoka then denied Valde in the back post as the Timbers definitely started well early in this one. Vancouver definitely did not start on time. It's also important to note that Vancouver did kind of start a little bit of a B team in this one. I'm guessing Jasper Sorensen is kind of resting some his players because it's a midweek game. No Thomas Muller in this game. Brian White didn't come until late in this one as well, and Noah Compo as well in this one as well, as he was suspended in this one. So it was kind of a bit of a backup team, but with the way that Vancouver has just so much depth this season and have done well even when they play their B team, you kind of expect that they should at least be a little bit better coming into this game, especially with them facing against the Timber side that has been kind of struggling, especially on the road. Valde was in on goal there, but he struck the post in the 11th minute before Takaoka would deny Smith from close range. The shots were 6-0 for Portland early in this one. I mean, the Timbers, they were all over Vancouver up to this point. Takaoka would then deny Valde on the curler before Nelson with Vancouver's first shot, but he was deflected right to Pentemes. Valde then hits it wide from close in the 30th minute. The shots were now 11-1 in favor of Portland. By the way, I accidentally wrote that twice on the board here, but yeah, still nothing to show for the Portland Timbers, and this is where you kind of started to maybe get some frustration if you're a Timbers fan, and especially the players. They play so well so far against Vancouver, but the fact that they haven't really got anything out of that one, I mean, they probably know what's coming. And it also doesn't have the fact that Takaoka was single-handedly the reason why this was 0-0, as he denied Kelsey from the header in the 36th minute, but then in the 39th minute, the Timbers finally got that that deserted lead. And of all players to get themselves the deserted lead, I would have not guessed that Kamal Miller was the one to do so, and I would definitely have not guessed it the fact that he would score a long range miss out, this one that very similar to what Brian Vera scored against LAFC not long ago to break the duck for the Timbers. But yeah, the Timbers they'll take it even though they miss some easy chances, and it just kind of feels like again it's kind of always mind-boggling when I see teams that have problem in terms of finishing despite generating a lot of chances. That sometimes they finish the hardest chance, the most unlikeliest attempt that they have on goal compared to some easy chances that they had. But like I said, Portland will take that. They lead 1-0. Smith trying to make it 2-0, but he heads it wide after Takoga didn't get to that one. Yeah, Takoga got away with that one there. When you're a goalkeeper, when the ball comes into the box from a corner, you don't get to it. Yeah, you're basically in no man's land, and he is very fortunate that Ian Smith didn't really quite do well in terms of trying to hit that one away. Vancouver, I also thought that they need halftime because they are very lucky the fact that this is still only 1-0 up to this point. This could have been 3 or 4-0 if the Timbers were a little bit more clinical in terms of finishing, and also if it wasn't for Takoga making some big save after big save. Valde then went beast mode there, but he missed wide in the first minute of stoppage time. But we do head to halftime with Vancouver leading 1-0. All right, so did I say that Vancouver leading 1-0? I meant the Timbers were leading 1-0 in this one. By the way, I had to check on the car, as you probably heard like a car alarm. I had to double check to make sure that it wasn't my car. Luckily, that of course isn't the case. But yeah, as I said, the Timbers were up 1-0 heading into the second half. But in the second half, you just kind of said that Vancouver was going to make some adjustment. I mean, again, with the way that this was only at 1-0, I just had a feeling that the Timbers were not going to hold on to it, and that all these chances they missed in the first half is going to come back to haunt them. But in the second half, Vancouver was more on the front foot as expected, with Jasper Sorensen making some changes and making some adjustment. But so far, they really haven't tested that Pantemis and create some dangerous chances. Though that would change a little bit later. Laborda would head it wide from the corner. Then there was a scramble in the Timbers box, which somehow Vancouver couldn't take advantage of it. Yeah, that was very lucky for the Portland Timbers. They had a lot of issue in this game dealing with set pieces, which is not a big surprise because this is a team that has been exposed at times when it comes to dealing with set pieces, especially from the ball coming into the box. But there was no doubt that Vancouver was knocking on the door, and like I said, these missed chances that the Timbers had in the first half is not going to reel its ugly head heading into the second half as well. That now Vancouver has the momentum. Smith with a rare chance for the Portland Timbers, but he sliced that one high before White had a header that was clear off the line. Wouldn't have counted either way because the whistle went before the header. And then this is when the audio become static. This is when the audio really had issue. And I like the fact that Apple TV even admits itself that the audio had its issue, because when you look at the score bug, they literally put that the audio is experienced technical difficulty, and yeah, I wish they probably should have fixed that, but I guess maybe because this is late in the game, they just say, you know what, let's just mail it and say that yeah, there is some technical difficulty when it comes to the audio. White then had a header. Oh, actually, I already said that. In the 82nd minute, Takoko would deny Anthony in the near post before Rios would head it high from Pentemis, and then Pantemis, or hits it right to Pantemis, I'm sorry. Pantemis then denied Berhalter as he was pushing that one onto the post, and there was no doubt that Vancouver was pressing hard for the equalizer. The Timbers, they were holding on for dear life, and it didn't quite work out, because in the 88th minute, guess who scored the equalizer? That's right, it's the main man, Brian White. He scored from Laborda and Berhalter to tie the game up at one apiece, and like I said, the Timbers, they had a lot of issue dealing with set pieces. This came off of a set piece as well, coming off of a corner that they didn't deal cleanly, and just like that, Vancouver was tied at 1-1. But they're not gonna just sit on this 1-1 lead and think mission is accomplished. They were pressing hard to get that second, and they should have got this second too, as Brian White had a chance to finish it from 7 yards out, and he missed that an absolute sitter there. Now it wasn't the most easiest chances for him to finish, even though he was wide open there. He kind of still had to take this one off the volley and try to stare it in. But with the quality that Brian White has had this season, and with the way that I've seen him put those chances away pretty much more times or not, yeah, that is one that Brian White would absolutely want to have back. And he even knows it too. Like in the full time whistle, you can clearly see he was hands and heads in terms of the edge chance that he missed in this point. And I even wrote, you would have bet the house that he would have finished that chances, and that chances could potentially come back to haunt them, especially costing them a free points and costing them in terms of the supporter shield race as well. Speaking of bad luck, Sabi would then struck the post from long range in the third minute stoppage time. And as I said, if the Timbers weren't hanging on for dear life late in this game, they definitely are now, because Vancouver, they were pressing hard to try to get this win up to this point. Though the Timbers actually had the last chance, as Miller would lash it wide from close in the fifth minute of stoppage time. And yeah, in the end, it ends in a 1-1 draw in this one. The shots in this one, 17 shots with the 14 that Vancouver has, 3 shots on goal with the 7 that the Timbers had, 4 shots off target with the 2 that Vancouver has, 8 shots that was blocked with the 4 that the Timbers had, and possession-wise, 58% possession compared to the 42% possession that the Timbers has in this game. And overall, I don't think either of these teams will be kind of happy in terms of how this game turns out. I mean, if you're the Portland Timbers, those missed chances in the first half, it really come back to haunt them in the second. And like I said, you just cannot get a 1-0 lead and hope that that would be enough to hold on, especially with this high flying Vancouver attack that we've seen throughout the season. And for Vancouver, they'll be kind of frustrated because, yeah, they didn't play their best game. I mean, the first half, they pretty much was falling asleep, especially on the defensive end. They had no answer in terms of the direct ball that the Timbers were putting them. A little bit better performance in the second half, but again, the Brian White miss and the Sabi post that was hit, they would have felt that they should have got 3 points in this one, despite equalizing late in this one as well. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of the 2 games that I've talked about in terms of this midweek action. We get full slate of MLS action again during this weekend. But before that, obviously, I'm going to have to make a couple of moving forward series episode and also do a return of the news of the week episode. I do apologize. The fact that I haven't been doing news of the week episode, I feel really guilty of myself. I've kind of been reducing doing news of the week episode like I usually do every single week. But I promise tomorrow I'll do a news of the week episode. I might even do it first thing in the morning as well. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.